Hello QMM1002 students. In this video, I'm going to explain the instructions for case study 1 in the course. You can rewatch this video anytime by clicking here. In order to read through the full instructions for the case study, the first file you'll need to download is this one, QMM1002 Case Study 1, Winter 24. On this case study, you'll be using the same personalized data set that you used for QMM1001. We're just going to add in one additional variable for the semester that you collected data in the fall or in the winter. If you took QMM1001 previously and you had a little bit of break in studies, instead of using fall 23 for semester 1, you'll just use whatever semester you collected that data in. All in all, your personalized data set should contain these variables from the date down to the semester. If you go back to the assignment link in Moodle, there is an example of the personalized data set provided. This is my own personalized data set, and you can see the variables I've recorded from date to time in hours in class, study, and sleep to my personalized ones like exercise, productivity, and emails. And you can see I've added this column in for the term. So for all of semester 1, please add the term that you collected that data. So for me, I collected this data in fall 23. So I would add fall 23 all in this column. And then I've started collecting data for the first couple days in the winter 24 semester. So I continue collecting all the same variables, but just add winter 24 at the end. And that is step 1. In terms of the format of the case study, you'll be answering 3 questions on this case study. What do you do in a day? Do you spend your days how you expect? And is there differences in how you spend your time this semester compared to last semester? The first 2 questions we've looked at before on previous case studies, but question number 3 is brand new. In order to answer these questions, you will have to write a report that contains at least 3 sections: introduction, data analysis, and conclusion. What will be different than in QMM1001 is that instead of writing this report in Word, you'll be able to create the report in R Markdown. Using R Markdown will actually save you time because you'll be able to write your report in the same document that you do your R code. It will help you to keep things organized and help you to have high quality tables and charts. Your final submission will just need to include your R Markdown file because that will have both your code and report and your personalized data as a CSV file. I will devote class time, which you can see in the course syllabus, to showing you how to use R Markdown. The final case study will be due on Thursday, February 22nd before you go out on study week. You must work independently on the case study. That means you cannot share your code or work with another student at any time. You're allowed to use your course notes and R documentation, but you cannot use AI such as ChatGPT or copy any code directly from online sources without citing them. All of these would be considered academic dishonesty according to Cambridge's academic integrity policy. So next we're going to move into the actual requirements of the case study. What does your report need to include? In the introduction section, you should include the dates that you collected personalized data. So in this case, you'll have to say all the time frame you collected data for semester 1, and then when you started collecting data again for semester 2. After that, you'll list all the variables that you collected from QMM1001. There might be some students that took QMM1001 in the past taking this course, so if the variables you collected are not the exact same as those listed on page 1, please just make sure that you use the variables you collected, and also make sure you add in the new semester variable to say if you're collecting data in the fall winter, for example, for semester 1 and semester 2. You must exactly restate the 3 questions you're going to answer. These you can copy. You do not have to rephrase. Please exactly state them. You will put in a summary of the 3 main variables we'll analyze on this case. So we're going to be analyzing quantitative variables on this case, which are your hours spent studying, hours spent sleeping, and your chosen quantitative variable, which should be variable number 9. For me, that was the number of emails I received. How you'll summarize them is by finding some basic summary statistics. You must at least calculate the mean and standard deviation. It's up to you if you want to find extra ones like the median or the max and the min, but you must have at least the mean and standard deviation for all three of these variables. And finally, for those same three quantitative variables, you'll need to check the 4 conditions required to use the t-distribution. So for each of those 4 conditions, you need to explain if they're met or not and include any plots you use. Please note that if the condition is not met, you need to say if there are any ways that we could alter the data collection process in order to help meet the condition. After you're done the introduction, you will move into the data analysis section. In the data analysis section is where you actually do most of your statistical work. Just like in QMM1001, in the data analysis section, you must include 5 or more examples of your daily activities that can help to explain the results. Essentially, what that means is if you get a result like, on average, I sleep 8 hours, you need to justify that by saying something like, I try to prioritize my sleep and wake up at this time consistently to ensure I get 8 hours to be as productive as I can be. You know your own schedule and habits the best. So the more than 5 examples of daily activities is just getting you to put those personalized examples that help to explain the results. Keep that in mind as you answer each of these questions. In part 1, you'll make a 95% confidence interval for the hours spent studying and interpret it, a 95% confidence interval for the hours spent sleeping and interpret it, and a 95% confidence interval for the quantitative variable of your choice and interpret it. For part 2, you're going to develop a number of hypothesis tests. The first one will be to test the hypothesis that your mean number of hours studied is greater than 3.13 hours per day. This number of 3.13 was reported by Maclean's on the last survey they did on study time of students in Canada, and they found that McGill University students spent the most time studying at 3.13 hours per day. So you'll see if as a student of business analytics you study more than that every day, you have to test at the 0.05 level of significance, write out your hypotheses, report the p-value, make a decision, and interpret that decision. In number 2, you'll perform another hypothesis test, but this time you get to choose the value you want to test. So for example, if you think you sleep 8 hours a night, you would test this hypothesis using a 2-sided test. So you're testing if the mean is not equal to 8 in the alternative, or any number that you choose. Like if you think you sleep 7 hours or 6 hours, you get to choose the number and then follow the entire hypothesis testing procedure listed here. For number 3 on your quantitative variable of choice, for this one, not only do you get to pick the hypothesized value, you also get to pick the direction of the test. So if you want to do a greater than test, a less than test, or a not equal to test, is completely up to you, and then you would follow the same hypothesis testing steps. Finally, in part 3, you'll move on to 2 sample tests. In order to do this, we're going to create some subsets of your personalized data. One for semester 1. For most students, this will be fall 23, but there are a couple students that took QMM 1001 more in the past, so you'll use whatever semester you took QMM 1001 in. And then the second subset will be for semester 2, which is the current semester, winter 24. Once you've created your subsets, I want you to comment on if these 2 groups would be independent of each other. Then I'll need you to perform 2 different methods in order to select data from those subsets. So first, you're going to take a random sample of 20 days from semester 1 and a random sample of 20 days from semester 2. Using that random sampling approach, I want you to choose what kind of test you could use to try to test that you spent more time studying per day in semester 1 than semester 2. Think about how the data was collected and use either the 2-sample t-test, the pool test, or the pair test and explain why you chose it. You'll then test the hypothesis following the regular hypothesis testing procedure here. In the second data collection method, you're going to select the first 20 days from semester 1 and the first 20 days from semester 2. Again, you want to test the hypothesis that you spent more time studying per day during semester 1 than semester 2. So the hypothesis is the same, But based on the different way in which you collected the data, taking the first days instead of the random days, I want you to choose the correct test. Choose sample, pooled, or paired, and explain why you chose it, then follow the correct hypothesis testing procedure. That's it for the calculations you need to complete, but remember, you also need to include more than 5 of those personalized examples throughout this section. Finally, in the conclusion, you'll answer 4 questions. What do you do in a day? Do you spend your days how you expect? Is there any difference in how you spend your time this semester compared to last semester? For that one, you only have to comment on study time because we only use study time in part 3 of the case. And finally, explain what you learned about yourself and your daily habits by completing the report. In terms of the format in our Markdown, we'll be talking about this live in class and it will be available in the class recordings, but there is a specific format to follow. In order to help you see what is expected, I have provided some examples of previous student case studies. If you go to Moodle, they can be viewed here. So the first example, you can see the introduction sections, all the tables the student created, and I just redacted some of the text that the student was explaining specific comments that you'll need to explain in your own words. But this was created all in our Markdown, where you can see the students' results as well as their explanation. You also have a second example. Again, you can see all the tables, the charts created in R, the results of the hypothesis test, and this is what you'll be working towards. Please note that the requirements for the case study have changed slightly since when these students last submitted the case study. So you must use the instructions file to know the exact instructions for the case, but those are really good examples in terms of the formatting and what is expected of you on the case. Finally, we're just going to talk about some dates. So to help you stay on track, case study 1 will be assigned on January 11th, and you need to continue collecting data from the 11th until February the 5th. You're then going to have checkpoints directly on your module applied activities. So from module 1 to module 4, you can find the due dates of those activities here. Then in class on February 8th and February 12th, I'll provide instruction on how to use our Markdown to complete the case study. If you go back to Moodle, you can see that I have provided an R Markdown template, and I'll show you how to use it during those live classes and in the recording if you can't come to class live on February 8th and February 12th. Finally, the complete case study is due on February the 22nd by 11:59 p.m., where you must upload your personalized dataset and our Markdown file. Before you make your submission, please review this marking grade. The case study is worth 20% of your final grade, so it's very important to know exactly how you'll be graded. The report structure will be graded extremely similarly to in QMM1001, so you'll be graded on things like your writing quality, your notation, and the 3 sections, introduction, data analysis, and conclusion. You can then find all the marks that will be assigned for the various types of calculations and inferential statistical tests found here. Finally, you're given 1 mark just for submitting the correct files. So that is a summary of what is expected on this case study, and we will review it more in class as we approach those case study work periods on February the 8th and February the 12th. If you have any questions, please contact me at any time, and I am happy to assist you. Thank you for watching this video. And good luck with QMM1002 case study number 1.